Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contracts, services month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters Innovation Podcast, your source for all things innovation. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Allan Dykstra on the line. He's co-founder and CEO over at Helios. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
So, Josh, excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about how Helios is helping to build inspired teams with their hashtag LoveWork app, which, by the way, love the name, number one. But I'm excited to get into this. But before we do, just for our listeners that aren't familiar with Helios yet, tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Yeah, thanks. As you said, I think really well, what we do in a nutshell is create technology that builds inspired teams. And we do this through, it's a pretty unique combination of a SaaS or software as a service mobile app plus human advisory services. So it's this combination of technology plus human advisory or coaching, if you will. And it brings together some elements that have previously been kind of separate. So team development, leadership development, and technology. We bring all that together in a pretty seamless and fun way. And create some pretty big impact.
That's awesome. And, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, executives listening. And at the end of this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave your, website or wherever you want to direct the traffic so that people can learn more. But I do want to make sure that the right types of businesses and or organizations follow up. So what's typically a good fit in terms of a client for Helios typically?
Yeah, thanks for asking. We tend to serve pretty large organizations from a people perspective. So we would say over 1,000 people inside your organization. We're designed to serve these large organizational systems where it can be really tricky to scale things like team development and leadership development. And that's the clientele that we love to serve. We're not particularly picky in terms of industry or vertical. We do a lot of work in the technology space, in the healthcare space, even in the retail space. We've got a bunch of different kind of industries represented. What we're more interested in is meeting up with organizations who have leaders who really deeply care about creating an organization that really puts human thriving at the center of the way they work. And so if your company is large and has leaders like that, we would love to talk to you.
That's awesome. I think that's a great transition too. So let's just dive right in and go further into this hashtag LoveWork app. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about how it works and functionality.
Yeah. So a couple points that I want to make on that. So, and I want to talk about kind of the challenges that the app is designed to address. So first, I would offer that the way we do team development hasn't seen any innovation. So if you think kind of traditionally, how do we build a team? Right? The answer is generally some version of an event-based lecture-focused workshop. Right? We take the team out of the work, we fill their heads with good stuff, but then we put them back in the work, and then we pray that they retain something and can somehow integrate what they learned, despite having 1,000 emails to reply to, and that they're also in back-to-back meetings. Right?
For sure.
Right,
it's a thing. Everybody listening is like, oh, I did that last week. Got it. Go ahead.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. It's the way team development is typically done. And I would say that model isn't even possible right now, right? In the midst of the pandemic, we can't even do it, right? We can't bring people all together at one place. You can't go to the hotel ballroom as much as you love the hotel ballroom. So this is the first thing I'd say about Love Work is we're offering a really new, innovative way to do team development. And so we say that in our process, in our experience, 5 minutes a day for the individual, and it's 15 minutes a week for the team. And we can do it entirely virtually, and it's pretty revolutionary and we're sort of introducing some innovation into this space that really hasn't seen much. So that's the first thing you should know about Love Work. The second piece that I'd love to share is around kind of the bigger picture. So in many workplaces, people are being pushed to the edge of their sanity. Right? As a society, before the pandemic, we were already struggling with things like burnout, disengagement, stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness, right, on and on. And now we add this extra layer of stress onto us, and most of us are kind of just hanging on by a thread. And so I think the pandemic is showing us all in pretty vivid detail that the last way of working, the last normal, didn't really work very well for very many people. It's really not sustainable in any way that we measure it. And I think in the light of COVID, we see this really clearly. But I don't think we know what to do differently. Right? Like all of that's true, right? We're pushed to the edge. We're like maxed out. We're at the cliff's edge of burnout. What the heck do we do differently? And so at Helios, we've spent the last decade figuring out an answer to that question. Now, it's not the answer, right? There's probably lots of answers, but we have an answer, and we pair it with this pretty cool mobile technology. So we focus the tech at the local level of team, because that's really kind of the immediate family, right? If you think about your family, this is the immediate family unit of work is your team. And we live most of our lives with this relatively small group of colleagues. And that dynamic, to a large degree, dictates our day-to-day well-being. Like that environment right there. So that means the team dynamic, if we can upgrade it, if we can make it fundamentally better and more life-giving and more energizing, it starts to install a whole different operating system of how we work. So all that to say, right, we create this tech, it builds inspired teams, but obviously from our viewpoint, we're doing something a lot bigger. The team is just kind of the gateway into a whole new operating system of work.
That's awesome. And I want to go further into the concept of what you built the platform on, this whole idea of micro-learning, because I don't want to assume that everybody in the audience understands that, because it's pretty revolutionary for many, especially if you're with the types of organizations you're working with. If you have, thousands of employees, then you possibly come from exactly what you said, the same training that's been done over the last 30 years. And so this idea of micro-learning is like, it's a new concept, especially for maybe some of the executives that may have been in those seats for a while and aren't as engaged on social media, possibly. I don't want to stereotype, but let's just say possibly. They maybe don't kind of know how that trend works and how we nowadays consume content. So give us a little on that, please.
Yeah, that's a great inquiry. And I think it goes back to the challenge and the contrast we can see pretty clearly in the last model, right? This model of a workshop, lecture-based kind of model, right? It's so difficult. I think we see the difficulty, right? We see the difficulty, and even if the workshop's great, how am I supposed to translate that? Right? I get back into my job, and it's like I have so many competing priorities. I can't possibly integrate. Even if the ideas were phenomenal, and they probably were, right? There's a lot of great facilitators and trainers out there, right? The content's probably great, but we can't possibly integrate it into our daily lives when our daily lives are as busy and as crazy and as packed as most of our days are at work. We just don't. We don't even have a shot, right, to be able to integrate this stuff, even if we wanted to, and we might really want to. And so what we need to do is actually change the system, right? Because it's not the content that's the problem, it's the delivery mechanism. Mm-hmm. So we need to your point, kind of like microdose this, right? We need to into these micro learning moments, and we need to. So what we've really doubled down on is that from our perspective, instead of this event-based model, it really needs to be about a practice-based model. So this is the way we learn anything. So when you think about learning how to play an instrument, or learning how to play a sport, or learning a new language, right? The way you learn that, in a word, is you practice. There's just no way around it. And so the premise of what we do says that if you want to love work, right, and that's right. That sounds nice, Josh, right? It's like, I think you're a little crazy, but it sounds nice, right? Yeah. So our perspective on this is you can actually learn to love work. It's probably not something that's just going to happen to you. It's not going to fall out of the sky and bonk you on the head and, here's the perfect job. But you can learn how to love work. It's something we can teach you how to do with practice. And so then, right, so that's our entire premise. And so then what you just need to know is, what are the practices, right? So, okay, now we had a practice set, right, to say these are the things, if we did these things, you could learn how to enjoy your work more and feel more fulfilled and fulfillment and meaning in your work. Okay, so you've got the practices. And then we really get back to, I think, your original question, right, is, okay, how do I actually fit this into my day? Because that's the hardest part. How the heck do I fit this into my crazy busy schedule? And the answer has to be tiny bites. It has to be, I do this, like I said, it has to be 5 minutes a day, 15 minutes a week. I can actually do that, right? That's not crazy. And because we pair it with technology, what we know is that people pick up their phones probably at least 80 times a day. This research is from a few years ago, right? So at least 80 times a day, which is every 12 minutes we pick up our phone. I think it's actually higher, especially during the pandemic. But we pick up our phone. We pick up this piece of technology so much. What if we could reclaim just one or two of those times and use it not to create more FOMO, not to create more fear of missing out, not to create more anxiety, right? When I look at Twitter, all I feel is anxiety. Right? So not to do that, but to actually help me learn how to enjoy this thing called work and maybe learn some things about my colleagues that I didn't know. So that's really what we're asking people to do.
Man, that's awesome. So, Josh, if I could talk to you about this all day long, but we're about out of time on this episode. So if somebody's listening and they want more information on Helios or to connect with you and your team, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can visit us online, and our website is helios.work. It's not helios.com. It's helios.work. And if you want to look for us on social media, our handle pretty much everywhere is the Helios Tribe. We do see ourselves as kind of a group of revolutionaries working all towards this end of making work better for everybody. And if you want to shoot us an email, you can also do that at hello@helios.work.
Fantastic. Well, Josh, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about all the great work you're doing over at Helios to help your clients and to help us, love work. I mean, it's an awesome concept. So good stuff there. We spent a lot of time doing it. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review in the Apple iTunes store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Innovation, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Josh, thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.